All right. Hey, good evening, everyone. Dave Wilson, the Ring of Hire Show. Hey, tonight I got one of my great friends here, Jason Risoli. How you doing, Jason?
Very well, Dave. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's been about a week since I've been on, and I look forward to this show on Wednesdays with you and how we're going to talk about some leadership traits tonight, and we're actually going to do a lot of deep diving in, so everybody. So we'll be right back after this video, and we'll start the show. All right, so how you been, sir? How was your week?
The week was good. I mean, the weather in New Jersey and obviously where you are in Pennsylvania this past weekend was not so great, but got a lot of time outside, still working in the yard doing some projects. I'm still looking for work, everyone. But
that's right, Jason. We're gonna get. I know that's a good way to put that in there. Jason's open to work, and everybody. I'll tell you what.
Back to work, so my wife gets me away from doing the projects around the house.
Projects around the house. I'll tell you, I look at with recruiting how people are coming in. We talked about it prior, and the different things that they're struggling, and so a lot of times people, man, it's like, don't take that job for granted. Don't take that. It can go away just like that, and a lot of people come up with the amount of layoffs. Some of them said, well, I got laid off. I was like, and you didn't even know it? I mean, you didn't know it was coming? They said no. And I was like, wow, I was blown away by that.
Yeah, it was it's something else how quickly things can happen in companies and being blindsided. But unfortunately, always trying to have a backup plan, right? So you always want to try and as best as you can have something going.
Well, that's what I said with LinkedIn. It's always good. It's always good to stay active on LinkedIn. I believe so, and I know you do too.
Yes.
We have Christine in the house tonight, aren't we all? How you doing, Christine? Appreciate it. Yes. All right. Tonight's show, I love shows on leadership, and when I was talking to Jason, we always talk a couple of times during the week, and I like to try to deep dive and learn more about leadership that I don't know about. And this subject's here. I mean, I'm looking at all these different type of leadership roles or names, if you want to say it, what each of them mean. And I told you, I don't know what I am, Jason. I have no clue now.
Yeah, I hear you. There's a lot of them. I was telling you, I think we did half the show before the show even started, Dave, tonight. But because we were
we did.
But yeah, it brought me back. Looking at some of these back into my college, with my bachelor's and master's degrees, and I felt like I was going back to studying some of these things. And because you always focus now, like on the one or two most popular ones, but forget all the other ones that are out there that have been used throughout history by famous folks and and some of them are definitely not popular anymore, but there's still a leadership style, right? So, and they're not to be forgotten, for what they were, but definitely we've gravitated towards one or two of those most popular ones nowadays, like servant leadership, right? Which is the one that I like to practice the most, but there's so many of them out there.
There is. And then when we're going to go over these tonight, everybody. So if you're listening to the show today or tonight or tomorrow, if you pick up some of these names of these leadership styles, try to think to yourself when you're driving, you're listening to this, like, what are you? Because if I was asked, there was one part in here where I learned to where in an interview how to answer some of these questions. And I was like, wow, what the heck would I have said? I would have been like, wait a minute, I've been in leadership all my life, but like you said, we're going to go over a couple of them tonight, and we're going to go down the list of them here. The one of them you brought up for the first time is autocratic leadership. That's how it's pronounced, autocratic.
Yep.
So it says here, often described as those with ultimate authority, power over others, These leaders tend to make choices based upon their own ideas and do not listen to their team. I didn't know that last part. Those leaders tend to make choices based upon their own ideas and don't
Correct.
listen to me.
Let me give you a famous quote on that one.
Yeah, please.
Let me know if anyone's ever heard of this quote before. It's my way or the highway.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, who knows who came up with that quote? Maybe, but that is autocratic leadership. You do as I say, not as I do. It's my way or the highway. That is a autocratic leadership in a one word in a one sentence answer.
Okay, well then it was definitely in the 90s with me in the paper industry after the military. It wasn't. I wouldn't say the military was that, because it was their way, but it was never brought to you in that style. Like when I was in the paper industry, we had those bosses, and I look at it now, I'm like, oh, that's what he was.
Yeah,
it was you're his way or you're out.
Yep.
There was no other. Do you find that old school more so, or do you still feel that we have a lot of those autocratic?
I don't think so much anymore. By any means, there are some. I would say you see that more in small businesses nowadays, where it's a small business owner that they've done it. It's their business. This is the way they want it, and this is they own the company. This is the way it's going to be. So if you don't like it, get out. You're not seeing that so much in large companies anymore. From my experience or my knowledge from others. But there's definitely that out there when it comes to that. Well, where I also often see this is or hear about this,
right?
Restaurants, cooks.
Right.
You get the executive cook in the restaurant, and they're very autocratic. This is the way my restaurant's being run. This is the way This is the way I serve my food or want my stuff dealt with. So they're very autocratic in a restaurant because they're very tight on their controls. But there's been definitely some famous people throughout history that have utilized and built businesses off of this. I mean, Henry Ford, for example, was one of the most popular ones when it came to this, on how he made his decisions and came about with his production of Ford automobiles in the early ons.
Right.
So he's definitely someone who has exhibited this. Someone who's more recently that has exhibited this probably would be like a Larry Ellison with Oracle. Just again, very unilateral in his decision making. Maintaining tight controls over the way he wanted to run his company and show out his product. And Oracle's very, very a successful company, right?
Right.
But that would be a more recent example of this. But I think it's more prevalent in small businesses and stuff like I said, restaurants. I think it's pretty prevalent in the kitchens of restaurants.
For that part, Craig, welcome to the show, Craig Walker.
Yeah, absolutely.
He says, I work at top 3 staffing companies in the United States, and I have leaders above me that have that leadership style.
Yep. Yeah, that's what they call it, the boiler.
Craig, I don't know how they exist. Craig, how in the hell do they exist in the staffing company? Because if that's not me. Maybe in the early 90s. Maybe a little bit, but I don't know how you make sense when you say I could picture being in small businesses that's your business. In the bigger business, like we're in the logistics and all even upper stuff like that, those days are gone. I think you're kicked out the door or something.
I would challenge you, Craig, because we're going to get probably to something that's called and I don't want to jump ahead too much, Dave, but I would say there's a leadership style called transactional leadership,
right?
Which is more really focused on how fast you get things done. It's very sales oriented. It's very systems driven. So when I think of something like transactional, I think of like agency recruiters, right? Where you're driven matrix, you're driven by the numbers. How many phone calls do you make in a day? How many contacts do you make? How many interviews do you set up? How many offers do you make? How many new hires do you start? Very transactional, very driven from that standpoint. Another way to look at transactional leadership is based on a system, right? So a system, when I think of that, I think of like quick serve, or we call them quick serve restaurants now, Dave. They're not even called fast food anymore. I don't know if you knew
quick
that.
Serve. No, I didn't know that. I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
Yeah. So in quick serve restaurants, think of like McDonald's, right? With Ray Kroc when he started McDonald's, everything was based on how fast you can get that order taken, The burger made, the fries done, in a bag, out to the customer. Very transactional, systems driven for efficiency. So that's a transactional leadership style. So I don't know, Craig, it could be autocratic, but I would guess that if it's more agency recruiting, it's probably more transactional what they're looking for.
It was on here on where the autocratic tower was saying similar. It says Bill Gates was one of Microsoft.
Yeah.
It says Elon Musk. Now this was interesting. Okay, Elon Musk of Tesla and SpaceX is an autocratic leadership. Now you've heard some of his styles, and then I thought about it, and I was like, well, maybe he is, because the way he talks about something, sometimes I was like, okay, But in your field, Jason, how do people deal with an autocratic leadership? How do you deal with that? I mean, do you just sit that person down and say, okay, it's your way, our way, or you're out?
Yeah, I think it's tough. It's tough, right? Because you have someone who you got to look at their traits of what is important to them, of why they're acting like that. Is it, so it's making sure that it's fine if they're being autocratic. Okay.
Right.
But they still need to understand that the implications of their decisions. And there's other benefits that they might be missing out on, such as team building, the feedback that could come from their subordinates, instead of just being unilateral. This is what you got to do. Taking that feedback or working with others, they might be able to get more. So again, it is tough. They might be really, really good at what they do, and that's why they're unilateral in their decisions and have those strict controls. But again, working with others and taking and having that feedback might be a big miss on their part. So
on their part. All right, and then we're gonna go into now the transactional leadership.
Yeah.
So when you talked about that, when I look at it, and listen, I told you before, I learned so much on this show tonight, getting ready for it, not realizing how many names that there was. Do you see that? You said more in today's style, right?
Yeah. Well, I think transactional leaders is very driven, right? It's focused on rewards and punishments. So those that do good get rewards. Those that don't do good on their metrics get punished. And that's how they motivate. It's the carrot and the stick, as you call it, right? I'm sure
it makes sense.
So, you got the reward, and you got the punishment. So it's very clear in their expectations. People that are meeting their goals, they're very happy. However, the problem is with this is the people that aren't meeting their goals, they're very demotivated. So it's a very black and white type of leadership style. And unfortunately, as we all know, not everybody could be an A contributor on a team, right? You're going to have B players, you're going to have C players, and then you're going to have your D and F players. So, obviously we've always wanted to try and, work on those D and F players, either exit them or quickly improve them. But what are you doing with those B and C players? That's a lot of core of your team. Not everybody could be an A player. Transactional leadership, when you look at that, kind of alienates those B and C players, right? That middle ground, those average Joes, if you want to call it that. You always want to, transactional leadership doesn't allow for mentoring.
Okay.
Or coaching, and that's another leadership style, coaching leadership. But transactional leadership is, again, very black and white. Either you're good or you're bad, and that's unfortunate.
I think I'm falling in a little bit of that category, a little bit. I'm like, okay. I challenge anybody that watches the show is, well, let me get to the LinkedIn user here. It says, I don't see their name. If somebody doesn't have a name on it, says this is a great point for people to try to understand their leaders and their KPIs. Yes. You know what? You could actually do almost a KPI for leadership.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. You could, because of everything that I read here, you could actually rate yourself and see how you're doing.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
How important do you think it is to know what type of leadership you are?
Again, I think it's interesting what leadership you might fall in, and I honestly don't know of a behavioral personality assessment that kind of categorizes somebody. Awesome. That really would be, and I'm sure that I could probably do some research offline for one of our future shows.
Try to find it.
Try and see if there's a personality assessment based on your traits, score of what leadership style you are, that you fit into. But yeah, there's definitely KPIs that can be pointed to this. And one of the things that you look for in those are engagement scores and cultural assessments within the company is, and 360 feedbacks.
Okay, that makes sense. And they said it also applies to a lot more for sales roles where you control your own income.
Yes.
And where you have to know beforehand. I agree.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
From transactional.
For that point. But yeah, I was thinking to myself that when it says the KPIs, I'm like, wow, I could like to see what I am, or, and I wonder if they do make a test like that. You have to check into that.
I am almost positive they do. I just don't know which company or what test, what the name of the test is, but I am almost positive. I'm pretty sure I've taken some of these maybe in college back a couple of years ago.
When you do that, oh my God. The next one I like, I got a democratic good leadership.
Yeah.
So democratic leadership. It says democratic leadership style. What you need to know. Democratic leaders can encourage brainstorms, can get wide range of ideas from other group members, lead to innovation, unique problem solving, creative solutions, encourages empowerment. I think I'm a little bit of that too.
Yeah. So, it's when you think of, so again, democratic leadership has nothing to do with political stances, right?
Well, where's the Republican? I'm like,
yeah, exactly. The Republican or the independent or libertarian leadership style.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really goes back to the democracy. That's where they're getting it from, is the fact that they're working, you're working in a team environment from a decision-making perspective, and that's what democracy is about. Is working. And again, I don't want to use the word collaborative because again, that's another leadership style, and some of these do overlap a lot, right? But it's working together across lines to try and make sure that there's open communication and collaboration. So again, some people that have done this before, one of them is Abraham Lincoln, right? So.
Yes.
U.S. president that has that, used that with diverse viewpoints and worked with his cabinet to have open discussions, to come with a collaborative approach. Another person that has done that in the past has been Howard Schultz with Starbucks. Actually, he went back to Starbucks recently, and he's utilizing that leadership style in order to make decisions. So there's a very old person who or old. It's been used 200 years ago, and it's been used within the past 10 years with a new company. So it has been a leadership style that remains popular throughout history. And again, I think we all talk about the importance of working as a team. So that's definitely a leadership style that I would say is still in existence today and in practice.
That is definite, because I like the sounds of everything that's in there. I'm like, okay, it's the innovation, problem solving, everything that I'm trying to rate myself. By the end of the night, I think I'll have what I am. This is great for people who are looking to buy in. Yeah, and to that point, if a company is looking for a certain type of leadership and upper roles, do you think they look for these certain traits that are designed? Like, because I've never asked, and I'm just being honest, Jason, I've never asked what type of leader are you? I've asked you I have asked what type of a leader you are, but it's usually the same thing. I like to build a team. It's never gotten to detail of some of these names.
Yeah. And I think it's tough to really, I've been asked that in an interview. What's your leadership philosophy? I've been asked. Now, what type
okay,
of
that makes sense to me. That makes more sense.
So, but again, to box yourself into one of these, I don't think necessarily makes you a good leader. To say that I'm one of these. I think it's good to show that you use a mix of a couple of these, but it also looks, I don't think, again, from specifically talking about democratic leadership, I think that serves a purpose. I think that's a good leadership style, absolutely, when it comes to certain positions and certain roles in certain companies. But to say that, oh yeah, everyone should be a democratic, should exhibit and use the democratic leadership style, that might not be the most effective leadership style for that company or that person or that role. But I do think there's honestly, in my opinion, Dave, it's a mix of a couple of these different ones that will make the best leader, as I would say.
And that makes total sense, because here it was saying It says, what are 4 democratic leadership styles? Participative leadership, shared leadership, open book management.
Yep.
And I want to ask you about that. Participative decision-making, democratic management style. Open book management. I was kind of curious about that. Is that talking about everything that we're talking about tonight?
I believe so, but I think it's more speaking to transparency and
Okay.
and being to when you think about the coach on the sideline. Okay, that's a college football or football,
Right.
and they're like this with the playbook. They don't want anybody to see. They don't want anybody to feel their plays. They don't want anybody to know about it. What the play. So so I think the open book management is more about, hey, I'm transparent. Here's the playbook, right? The playbook's open for everyone to participate and to formulate as a team, and that's what it means to be democratic. It means I'm not calling the plays. Everyone on the team's calling the plays. We come up with the plays together. That's what I think that means.
Yeah, because it's saying leadership styles.
Yeah,
and that makes kind of sense. Participative leadership, it's shared leadership.
Correct.
I guess, like you said, it could just mean different things there. But it seems to bring you together. It seems like when I'm looking at some of these, it just brings them together.
Yeah, the problem with the democratic leadership, though, Dave, is look at Congress, right? You have to have a majority, so you're not going to get a consensus, right? It's very tough to get a consensus even in small groups, let alone Congress. And I hate to bring democratic and political together, but then even you get to majority of someone's still got to call the shot, right? At the end of the day, and then you're going to alienate people that are when you have this team environment, you're still someone who's opposed to it is going to feel alienated. So there's you can't have it strictly democratic in your leadership style, but it definitely the inclusivity, having people inclusive of the decision and participating in what that decision is or giving their feedback is definitely helpful. But again, to have it, someone at the end of the day has to make the decision, right? Someone has to carry the ball forward, whether it's the quarterback, the running back, someone has to carry that ball, right? In order to make the touchdown. I know we're in football season. I gotta make some football reference.
I know. Well, that's great. I can understand it more that way because I'm like lost on some of these things. I'm like, but after tonight, I'm going to be an expert because it says what are the cons and what exactly almost what you kind of said. It says criticism of process, short-termism, corruption, voter ignorance. And I think that's something else different. Lack of political education, manipulation or control of public opinion. I guess that's towards more. It's got to be towards more government related there.
I would say some of those things are definitely more government, but there is definitely to Christine's point right here. There's no influence on these styles. There's and so you look at the wording of corruption. There's when you have democratic people are lobbying, right? They're lobbying for their cause. You get that leadership style, and someone's going to come in and they're going to really feel strong. They're going to advocate. They're going to try and sway the rest of the team.
But I like what she's saying there. I like what she's saying.
Yeah,
because that makes total sense. And like you said, it all depends on like when you look. I know we're not talking to go government or anything like that, but when you're looking at just different states, different beliefs of how it should be. And I understand what she's saying. I kind of like that. I never thought about that.
Yep. So here's another one. Do you think management of certain people depends a lot on how people interact? It will be different management styles with different employees to some extent, I believe. Some people need to be managed in different ways, which is why managers, especially newer managers, have to not only hire for skill sets in their employees, but for coachability. So that was a long comment, by the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll figure out his or her name here, but let's see. Do you think management of certain people depends? Yeah,
I absolutely. So I couldn't agree more with this comment, honestly. And from the standpoint as you manage, when you manage people, and the way you manage one person isn't necessarily effective in how you manage a different person.
And I agree with that 100%.
So there's different approaches you have to take to different people. Just like there's like people want different things out of their job. We talked about this in one of the past episodes on the podcast. Is up there? It is Allison and Dave. You were right. It is. Allison. There she is. So it is. So there, people want different things out of a company.
Right.
And they want different things from the company. They want different things from their supervisor as well.
Right.
So, on how to be managed. So, and that's what's really important is about learning and fostering that employer and, manager subordinate relationship, is to understand that person, get to know them on how they wish to be managed, and what are the things that make them click. All right. What's the things that drives them? So.
And that you can actually,
someone might want to be managed autocratically. When we go back to that original one, someone might, hey, just tell me what to do, right?
Tell me what to do, right?
I'm clocking in. Just tell me what to do. I'll do it the best I can, and that's it. I don't want to make this, or you know what, I want to be managed transactionally. I want, every time I score the touchdown, I want you to cheer for me, but I'm going to score the touchdown as many times as I can. Like they want to be that superstar. So you got to motivate them to be that superstar, and reward them for being that superstar. So they might want transactional management. They want, someone might want to, hey, I just want to be able to participate. I want to give my input, and they want to be led by a democratic leadership. So again, there's different people want different things, and that's what I'm saying. You can't just box and say, I only do this. I'm only an autocratic leader. You have to be somewhat of multiple, of different aspects of these different leadership styles. And that's why I think we're talking about that tonight.
Yeah, because from what Christine said, there's no difference to where Allison here is, because it's the states versus the same thing. People, it's different states, different people. Everybody likes to be managed differently. And when I hear what she's saying, a different style with everything, with diversity and everything in the workplace and all the different cultures, and that's a tricky, some people, the way you word things, we've talked about numerous times. I've asked you, wording and communication can come across two different ways, different styles of leadership, because I think sometimes I'm too directive. When years ago I was too directive, it was my way, but I would listen in a way because they had to.
Yeah.
I kind of went back and forth, but I kind of see what they're both talking about.
Are you going to talk to someone in the workplace that's 50 60 years old the same as you talk to someone that's 20?
No, and that's a perfect analogy. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, so you have to customize your leadership style to the person that you're leading. You can't think that you're going to talk to somebody, and it might be the reverse. What happens if you're a 20-year-old manager talking to a 60-year-old subordinate?
Right.
You gotta, everything is in perspective, and you have to be adaptable. And that's actually another leadership style that we're not going to get through all these today, Dave. I'll tell you.
I know. There's so many of them here. This one here, this Democratic one's got me going though, but because I'm like, I'm in my thought process as you're talking and as we're reading this stuff, is I always say is sometimes you need to balance each other out in a way. Like sometimes it's great. Like we're two different people, and we balance each other. Like you get that, but in a leadership style, I'm thinking, wow, what would be a good mix? Wow.
Well, there you go. I believe it's Allison again that's mentioned, like, that she prefers to be a mixture of democratic and autocratic when being managed. For her own individual style of what she wants freedom, but the end game is just hiring. So she, and then understanding what these KPIs are. So again, being dictated what the KPIs are, being given the freedom to make some autonomous decisions or some some decisions as a team. But at the end of the day, from a leadership style, having having that mixture of democratic or an autocratic is something that she feels that would be a good mix for her. But again, I'm gonna point out, Allison, like we've gotten through 3, and there's probably what Dave? There's probably 15 ones that we could probably talk about. We haven't even we're just scratching the surface on all the different ones that
it is, because when I listen to her, I kind of think of myself, and this is where I like to learn. I do like the Democratic. I do sometimes like somebody that just tells me how it is.
Yeah.
See, I'm changing, I'm evolving, because when I think of the autocratic now, I think of a micromanager. Isn't that kind of a micromanager, that he's an autocratic? Or not?
They can be, because of the controls that they want. Like, they're unilateral in their decisions, but they're tight on their controls. So, they want to make sure that people are staying within those boundaries. So by doing that, they have to probably be micromanagers in order, to make sure that people are. So, but when you have stuff like that, you go to a lack of trust, right? So there's a feeling or perception of that employee that there's a lack of trust. There might be that person might have total trust in that associate, but the feeling of being micromanaged is that there's a lack of trust. So,
do you feel, Jason, that people should learn these names of leadership? I mean,
sorry,
seriously,
I'm laughing for Alice's next comment, but it might just depend on the day of the week. So on what's
yeah, Allison. Yeah, that's a real going.
I love that because
it might depend on the day of the week. That's good.
That's great. Sorry, Dave. I had to put that up.
No, I know. I know you're laughing. But no, I mean, I don't know. It opened my eyes a lot tonight. Like you said, there's no way. I mean, I got like 30, 40 pages here.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize there's pillars, there's all different kinds of things and adjectives that we're gonna hit that too. And
yep.
But yeah, the Democratic, we've stayed on that one for a while there. There's a lot in that one.
Yeah, well, again, Congress is big and the economy is huge in the United States, but we're not talking about politics tonight. So.
I know that's what it turned into because oh my God, it's the same. I'm stunned for words because I don't even know what to say. I'm like, wow. Okay, I'm going to be really reading on that one. All right, the next one here I'm going to let you pronounce because I'm going to blow it, and it starts with an L.
It starts with an L. Oh, laissez-faire leadership. Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I stumped for a second there. Yeah, laissez-faire leadership.
Pretty good. You were pretty good there.
That's definitely bringing me back to college. That was
self-awareness.
Well, should I go like this? It's laissez-faire. So laissez-faire.
Yeah.
So the whole point of laissez-faire, it's a hands-off leadership style. It's very laid back, laissez-faire. When it comes to that. So it gives a high degree of autonomy, a high degree of decision-making authority to the people that are out there. So, again, laissez-faire, hands off, right? That's the whole,
because it says they give their team support, guidance, consultation, training when it's needed, but trust them to handle the details and execution of their task.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit of that too. I can make a country song about this,
Yeah, right.
I'm a little bit of this, I'm a little bit of that, but I kind of like this one a little bit.
Yeah.
The wording, I don't know why that word is like that. I don't know.
Well, the wording, because I'm almost positive it comes from French,
right.
French meaning, but it's actually almost the complete opposite of an autocratic leadership style. So, someone who's really popular that would have done this in the past, or actually does this to this day, is actually Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett.
You're right. Warren Buffett and Steve Jobs.
He has a style that, he invests in a company. But he's not investing necessarily in a company. He's investing in a management team. Right. And that's what private equity does. Is that they invest in management teams, and then they lay back. Here's your. Let us know what you need help with. But we're trusting you to make the decisions. We're hands off for the most part. We're here to support you. And that's that laissez-faire leadership style. Warren is very, very well known for doing that. Another one that's really well known for doing that, has done that in the past. And what drives this is creativity, right? Because when you have a hands off, when you're not autocratic and you tell someone to restrict their creativity because you got to do what I'm telling you to do, you're giving them creative options. So another one that has really, benefited from this is Phil Knight. And I don't know if anyone knows who Phil Knight is, but he was the co-founder of Nike. And and I don't know if anyone watched, I think it was on Netflix, Air Jordan, on the Netflix series, on how Air Jordan came about, the shoe. Like Michael Jordan would have never signed with Nike, and Nike would have never been the company it was now if Phil Knight wasn't laissez-faire in his leadership style with his people to allow them to be creative and come up with creative solutions in order to get Michael Jordan, to sign with their brand over Adidas, primarily the Adidas brand, which was the main basketball shoe at the time, and/or Converse. But Nike, that put them on the map because of his leaders. Like, having that laid back expectation and laid back leadership style. It really brought out that creativity.
I don't know. I'm looking at that one and I'm saying to myself, like, wow, as you're talking about it and saying that, and I don't know if I like that style.
Well, that's the ultimate trust, right? You got to ultimately trust. So
yeah, because I mean, I like a little bit of it, but there again, I feel like, man, they're going to get you at the end. You make the wrong decision.
Well, let me give you a quote by someone who is famous on this one. The best executive is the one who has sense enough to pick good men to do what he wants done, and self-restraint to keep from meddling with them while they do it. And that was President Theodore Roosevelt that actually said that. So,
Okay.
so it's one of those, I'm the leader. I build good teams. I build good management teams, and I trust that they will lead and do what is necessary to get the job done. And that's, so that's what it means to be laissez-faire.
All right. Well, I mean, that was kind of my favorite one that I'm not sure if I like or not. I do like some of it. I like the part, make your own decisions.
There, I got
someone. I've never worked for somebody like that, though. I don't think that I've ever worked for somebody with that style.
Allison agrees, though, that's what
Allison, put that on her list. And is that a good CEO who does that? Yep. Wow. Yeah. I mean, wow. I don't know, man. These things are confusing, some of them, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to say I'm not too sure about that one.
That's fine. But again, it's a mix. It's a mix that's having balance. So
and the mix, and it says here the pros: more employee freedom. We talked about that. Leadership models, they're free. Decision making. All right, this sometimes can feel daunting. Okay, all right. Well, on that note, how do you say that again?
It's not laissez-faire.
I like how you say that, laissez-faire. I couldn't pronounce it. I was like, I'm going to let you do it, because I'm like, no. I ain't going to do it. We talked about transformational leadership. That we didn't.
We didn't touch on transformational. Yeah, we did touch on transactional.
Yep. So the transformational. Get my book together here.
Yeah, right.
Defined as leadership approach that causes change in individuals and social systems. It's an ideal form, creates value, positive change that end goal of developing followers into leaders.
Yep.
Oh, yep.
That's the definition, all right. So
yeah, it's a definition. And then when you talk about it, like I'm like, okay, so it's saying there positive change in the followers and the end goal of developing followers into leaders. So it's a visionary, it's innovation, it's fostering growth.
This is the Richard Branson of leadership styles. Richard Branson, the founder and CEO of Virgin Group, Virgin Atlantic. Right. He's a visionary, right? He's someone who wants complete innovation, wants to really press the boundaries through creativity. Started an airline by chartering flights. When he couldn't get a flight,
right.
He was in an airport. He's like, how much to charter a flight? He chartered a flight. He wanted to, send people in intergalactic, travel. He's completely wants to explore the unlimited boundaries of life's offerings. So that's what transformational leadership is. He's, encouraging vision and innovation.
It said it comes up to what are 4 transformational leaders. There's the 4 I's: idolize, influence, inspirational, motivation, intellectual stimulation. What the hell? What the hell is that?
So that's someone that's pressing. When I talk about the when I'm talking about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's that you get to the top, the pinnacle. It's self-actualization is the pinnacle. The top it's pressing your own boundaries to be the best version of yourself, and then trying to exceed that. So fostering your own personal growth. So that's what it is. It's like stimulating. When I say stimulating, it's brain activity. It's
right.
From that perspective, it's like trying to be more than you think that you can be in life. Or
my head's turned like this. I'm like, okay, I'm getting there with it. I'm getting there. I think it's Allison again. We're all more complicated than we realize. Yeah. Oh yeah, because I'm complicated tonight. I'm thinking, okay, so I'm still not all into it yet. Transformational
So
leaders.
think of it this way: Steve Jobs, right?
Right.
And he has the Apple computer. The Apple computer was revolutionary, right?
Right.
And then he goes, yeah, but I want to take a phone, and I want to take this internet thing, and I want to take this iPod that has music on it. Then I want to take the computer, and I want to put it all together. Oh, by the way, I want people to be able to see each other while they talk to each other. And so they say, what are you talking about? But that's transformational leadership, is pressing the boundaries of intellectual creativity, and saying, but we're going to make that, and we're going to find a way to make that, because that's what society needs.
So you're developing it. You're developing that person. You're giving them a vision. This is like saying, here's our vision, or this, are we going towards one vision, or like the company's vision? Is that what you're saying? Kind of.
Yeah. It's taking the skill sets and the knowledge of your existing workforce. Okay. And as a transformational leader, it's taking them to a new era. So think of it. My brother-in-law works for Princeton University. Okay. And he works in the energy sector, that's done with the Department of Energy. And they're there, and all they do all the time is work on how to make split atoms to make fusion technology. And fusion technology, can power the entire world, with clean energy. So like groundbreaking type of work, takes transformational leadership to motivate and influence people to come up with those ideas. And, think of AI, chat GPT and artificial intelligence and stuff like that. Like those transformational leaders are leading people to have these visions, of how to get to things that don't exist right now.
Well, that's definitely your upper teams.
Yeah.
That's your height. That's your middle, regular Joe here, everything like that. You're just coming into that mix, but it's coming down, because when I look at hear something like that, what you're saying, and it's exactly what I read, is how does a leader, as a CEO, is that what their job is? Is that they're trying to get this to you or to the team? I guess what I'm trying to say is,
I mean, it's definitely someone who's it's more often used from that perspective, from a upper management, but it could be a visionary with a coach, right?
Right.
It could be a coach. It could be a coach, of a sports team. It doesn't. I mean, I know we're talking about the workplace, but there's definitely transformational leaders and stuff like that in sports and in other areas.
That is, and they talk about the 5 C's, and I was like, okay, what are the 5 C's? Clarity, connection, creativity, confidence, and commitment. This one makes you feel inspirational, the way a lot of the stuff in here, the way you talk, the way it talks about it, because every word, when you listen to the words inspirational, motivation, clarity, creativity, confidence, commitment, it's all, man, it pumps you the hell up, man. I'm like, woo.
Yeah, and that's where we talk probably not tonight's show, but the future we're going to talk about all these adjectives that really are descriptors of a good leader. And I think a lot of those adjectives can be used across a lot of these leadership styles, for sure, because those are exactly those 5 C's are exactly some of the adjectives that are descriptive of what a good leader should be or strive to be.
So would each different type of leadership have different adjectives, meanings? Does that make sense? Does one thing mean the same in all leadership? What am I trying to say here? I'm froze here.
I think what you're saying is can you use an adjective across many leadership styles? So can you, and yes, absolutely. I mean, I would say most all of, one thing that should probably, one adjective I can think of that probably carries across almost all of these leadership styles is integrity, right? How can you be a good leader if you don't have integrity? And I would think that within all these leadership styles, that's an important trait or important adjective. I wouldn't use the word adjective. It's really a trait. It's a leadership trait,
right?
A trait that you could have or should have across all these leadership styles. I think when you look at it, is when you were talking, we went back to talking about scoring, like if you had to do an assessment, I think, communication or confidence or decisiveness or delegation or consistency or, humility, problem solving, all these traits that we'll talk about. I think the scoring and the weighting of those traits would lead you to that would lead the test in order to say, okay, well, you are ending up being more of a democratic leader or a laissez-faire leader or a
If you were to put the
leader.
words in different ones.
I think those the weighting of those traits within you would lead you to say you're more of this type of leadership style based on those traits.
And that makes total sense, because if I could just move them to okay, well, this one would go here, this would be here, you know, and because if you're an autocratic and commitment, do you really think a person really needs to know what the commitment is? Because they're going to be like, they don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
Someone who scores a 10 on decisiveness is probably not in the democratic leadership, but they're probably much more prone to being autocratic leadership. But it's still a leadership trait, right?
And you were right here, because transitional leadership, it was talking about coaches, athletic teams. Leaders motivate their followers by promoting a reward of the winning the game, the reward of it. What's it like? And that makes total sense when I read it like that now.
There we go. And we're not even using the same notes, Dave. So
I know. And I'm like, all right, you got that one. I'm like, but I understand what they're saying there, because to teach somebody what's the feeling of winning, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that feeling, what are you winning? What is winning? When you look at that word, you know, does it mean you always have to win to be a winner? I don't think so. But that word, I'm just going to say it again like that. This show's got me all tied up tonight.
It goes back to Allison's, depends on the day of the week, right? But
yeah, it does. Because how do you motivate people to install a level of commitment and to win, and the winning of the game? So besides giving them all the tools, being the person that gives all the tools, but showing them the rewards of winning, maybe, you know, hey,
there is no one right answer, right? So you're looking for that answer, that one right answer, and there is none, because
this show has me sweating tonight.
It means something different to everybody. So
yeah, it does.
And Allison just responded with an LOL, because she does. It depends on the day of the week.
Yeah, because it's mentally draining. This show. We got two more we're going to talk about, and then this is going to be a great show another time again. The one you talked about, the servant leadership style.
Yeah,
that, you know, you've always said it. No matter when you come on the show, you talk about treat people how they would like to be treated.
Yeah,
you know, how do you like to be treated? Is that what that comes into that type of leadership style? Because I believe I'm a servant. I believe that. I think it's good to be a servant, right? I mean, do you feel that that's a good trait? I really feel everybody should have that, because you're serving them, you're giving them the tool, you're giving everything they need to know to be successful. So I kind of like that leadership style.
It's the one that I love practicing. However, every leadership style has a pro and a con, right? And I'm sure you got the notes in front of you of what the con is. But you know, every leadership style, you know, has its benefits, and there's I would say, my personal opinion, servant leadership has far more pros than cons, but it does have its drawbacks too. From that perspective.
From on the servant part, because it was saying there are 4 elements. Let's see: flexibility, empathy, you've talked about numerous times, stewardship, listening. You know, listening is a good skill. Leadership skills are vital to success of it. Yeah, I mean, it says here 11 pillars. There's 11 pillars. Again, it's the same thing: listening, empathy, healing, awareness, persuasion, concept, foresight, stewardship, growth, building community. If that's everything of the pillars, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the, and that's probably, that leads you to one of the cons of servant leadership, is that burnout, right? You can't satisfying everybody, leads to burnout, because you're only one person, right? As a leader, so you try and understand everyone's point of view. You try and work, to a good leader might say, from a servant leadership perspective, is everyone that I manage, I should know how to do every one of their jobs. Well, you're only one person, right? And you as the coach, you want to jump in, you want to help them out, but you can't help everybody. So you burn. You put, the whole point of it is you're putting others before yourself, and which is great, because it's so appreciative of everybody, but it does lead to your own personal burnout. Because you can't, and that feeling that you can't satisfy everybody. So there's only so much you can do as one person. So that's the con of servant leadership. If there is one, but there's definitely very famous people that have used it. Again, it's one of it is my personal favorite leadership style, because again, I think it's one of the, like you said, the pillars, or it has many of the pillars that of leadership traits that lead to what makes effective leadership and high performing work teams, and a sense of loyalty and engagement, which are extremely important, especially nowadays in a workplace setting, to have a very highly engaged and a workforce, high performing, highly engaged workforce. So,
and I could see, and you said it there. There's a lot to that.
Yeah,
there's a lot to servant leadership, and to get all that out, to be considered. Again, am I part of it? Yes. Like you said, a lot of these adjectives, you can move them elsewhere. Some of them you can't. But it says here, you don't prioritize their own objectives. So that's what you're meaning, like your own self there, that you're going to help other people. Do you see that in a lot of styles of people that you've met through the years?
You know what, honestly, I think people say it more than do it. Right. So I believe people say they want to be servant leaders, but and there are definitely a lot of people that I've worked with in the past that are okay. But I think more often than not, I think people say they're a servant leader, but they're actually not a servant leader, because they might be a good listener, they might be a good communicator, but a servant leadership is a good doer as well. And they're willing to get in, roll up their sleeves, okay, and get in there and do it side by side with their people. And that is really what a servant leader does.
That's part of me.
Yeah, and I don't know if I don't really want to put a minority percentage on this at all, but I think a lot of people say it but don't do it.
Do it.
So
Allison says one more thing here, and we're going to call it. It takes confidence as a strong leader to actually hire people who can do the role better than almost anyone, including yourself. Let them shine and let it get it done. That's well said.
And Allison, thank you so much for the comments tonight. You've been contributing great tonight.
I feel like she's been in part of the conversation throughout the night, and that's so true. I'll tell you though, Jason, this was a good show. Thank you as always. This had to have been one of my most shows that I've not struggled with, but I didn't know that there were so many different styles. And I challenge everybody to really look it up and see what type of leader you are. Because I don't feel it's bad to find out what you are, because maybe you can make some improvements on it. Like you said, the pros and cons of learning all that. I'm a mixture of everything but that French thing, whatever you say.
Laissez-faire.
Laissez-faire. I think that's in a different field, but all the ones that we talked about, and like you said, there's so many different type of leaders out there, and I think that would be so cool if you would bring that back and do some research on that, see if there's some kind of test.
Yeah, I'm taking that down as a note right now, Dave, and I definitely would love to come back and let's discuss some of these other ones, because I don't think we even got through half of them. No. And Allison for one is loved the session tonight, and I really, and you could tell I'm pretty passionate about leadership styles, and
yes, you are.
And I think it's fun. I think it's fun to understand them, because again, I think it's unknown. People say, well, leadership. What is leadership? And I think there's so many styles, and we haven't even touched on all the leadership traits and what's important from that. But if we can, I'm gonna find a test that's out there that we could take. And then maybe you and I could take that ourselves.
Take the test, and then see what it is and do it.
I think that would be really, really cool.
It would, and this is a type of show that I like to do now, because it's like you deep dive into it. We talk about leadership, what is a leader, but this here really takes it to another level.
Yeah.
Like you said, you felt you were back in the 90s or back in college, right?
Let's not date myself. I'm out there looking for a job right now.
No, that's true, right?
I'm young at heart. I'm young at heart. So
I love it. So thank you so much, Jason. I'll talk to you after this. Thanks, everybody. And please, share the show, share it, like it. And what kind of leader are you? That's what I'm going to challenge with people tonight on. So I'll be right back after this. I'll talk to you, Jason.
Thanks.